This show is powered by BL3P, the Lightning-enabled European Bitcoin exchange.
Connect the build.
Ricki adopting Bitcoin Capetown.
South Africa is famous for its breathtaking landscapes, vibrant wildlife, and cultural diversity. If you had the chance to live anywhere else in the world but without any of South Africa's unique scenery or spirit, would you still consider moving?
Sure. No.
Downhill skateboarding is known for its adrenaline-pumping speeds and the need for serious skill to navigate tight corners. Do you think you'd still enjoy downhill skateboarding as much if you had to stick to flat, slow roads?
Definitely not.
The movie In Bruges is both darkly comedic and full of twists, set against the beautiful yet mysterious backdrop of Bruges. Have you ever been to Bruges yourself?
No.
Steak is a classic favorite for many, especially when grilled to perfection. If someone offered you the finest vegetarian steak alternative, promising it tastes just like the real thing, would you be tempted to give up your real steak for it?
Absolutely not. That's ridiculous.
Dire Straits' music, especially Sultans of Swing, is timeless and loved by many rock fans. But if you were at a concert and they only played synth remixes of Dire Straits songs, would you still stick around until the end?
Yes.
You mentioned that your ideal holiday spot is anywhere where the surf is good, which sounds like a surfer's dream. If you had the chance to surf on the world's most perfect wave, but it was indoors in a giant wave pool, would you take it over a natural beach break?
Yes, definitely.
The Sovereign Individual explores the impact of technology on personal freedom and autonomy. Published in the late 1990s, The Sovereign Individual was ahead of its time in discussing digital economies and individual sovereignty. Do you think that the book's ideas are even more relevant today than they were when it was first published?
Yes.
It is wonderful that you look up to your father, we were told. But if he had discouraged you from pursuing Bitcoin and insisted you to stick with traditional banking, do you think you would have listened to him?
No.
Orange sounds like a creative venture, especially in the space of Lightning remittances. If the name Orange were to be trademarked by a major fruit company, would you be willing to rebrand to something less citrusy?
Yes.
Are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
We are all Satoshi Nakamoto. So yes.
Welcome to the Connect the World weekly podcast. I'm Edward.
And I'm Steph. We are ready to take you with us into the beautiful world of the Lightning Network.
Enjoy the ride. This is episode 124 of Connect the World, and this show is made possible by our friends from Bitonic and BRINGIN. Thank you guys for helping us with our mission, and if you also want to help out with our mission to connect everybody with Bitcoin through the Lightning Network, then follow us on Twitter, subscribe at YouTube, and of course, if you have any questions at all, you can come over to our Telegram group and you can ask us anything.
Conecta el mundo.
So welcome, Ricki.
Yeah, welcome, man.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. And another one from South Africa. We have great connections with you guys down the south. We're at the same time zone, but still away away from each other.
Well, I mean, South Africa was first the Dutch colony, so there's a lot of cultural crossover.
That's correct. And we also talked Afrikaans, which is Dutch, kitchen Dutch, as you mentioned in the pre-talk with each other, and we always love to do that. So, I think it's better for the audience that we just keep this conversation in English because otherwise, I think not everyone will make it into the end. So, I'm curious because you're a fan of downhill skateboarding. Edward just sent me a link to your YouTube channel, and it's all about downhill skateboarding. But are you such a adrenaline junkie? Is it something you need in your life?
So I quit downhill skateboarding about 2-3 years ago when I finally broke my last bone. There's that one, you have that one accident too many. And I was like, no, got a wife now, got a kid on the way. And I was like, I can't be doing this anymore. It's a young man's game. But there is nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like flying down a mountain at 100 kilometers an hour. Nothing beats it. And surviving, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
You're still here, but you told us that you. I mean, how many bones did you break in your life doing this?
Yeah, quite a few.
You lost count.
Yeah, no, not so, maybe like 3 or 4. But the thing is just that like every time the recovery takes longer and longer. And what happens is like as you get older, like you have this thing in your brain, like the switch starts flipping where you're like, I am mortal actually, like I can die, and so eventually
that changed.
And to be a really good, so I used to be like a semi-professional, and I used to travel around the world skating competitively and stuff. And at some point, there's always someone who's crazier than you, and you can't out-crazy a crazy person. So eventually, it's either you go full crazy, or you have to kind of just take a step back.
I was thinking so now about the full crazy about people that are climbing tall buildings, without a safety, right? But
it's the same type of person. It's the same type of person.
I love to ski, to alpine ski, running slopes, and every year I have the urge to break my speed record. So and it was for years it was around 100 kilometers an hour, but last year I broke it. It was 122 kilometers an hour. But I also have 2 small kids, and I was and the adrenaline, right? There's nothing like it, and I had the first lift to the top of the mountain and the first slope, and it was perfect, it was the perfect day for it. And then when I finished the slope, I was at the lift again, and I was like, whoa, this was really fast. And I was checking my watch because I have like an app for my Apple Watch where I can track my rides, and I was like, whoa, 122 kilometers. And then I thought about my kids, my 2 young boys, down because they were down in the valley with my mother and my wife, and I was like, wow, man, and just wearing a helmet, and I mean, what does a helmet do when you hit like something with 122 kilometers an hour, right? It's just
nothing.
But with snow, it's less hard, right? If you fall,
but still, I mean, if 122 kilometers an hour is way too fast. There's nothing you can that can save you at that time. If you really hit something or someone, I mean, there are a lot of amateur skiers also. Well, I mean,
Yeah, it's the trees. That's the problem. It's the same with downhill skating. Trees. Like the tarmac is not the problem. When you fall on the tar, you just slide. Often if you're going that fast or you're racing, you're wearing leathers, so you just slide. But it's when you hit a guardrail or a tree or a stop sign or another person, well, a sheep. That's what really messes you up.
A sheep, man. Or a deer, or a deer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we. So I've got a lot of stories of crashing into animals. Actually, we were doing a race in Pretoria, and we came around this corner, and there was a big pack of us skating, maybe like 15 of us skating, and it's like cycling. You skate in a really tight pack, so you can draft each other. For aerodynamics. And as we came around this corner, a herd of horses had run across the road in front of us. There was no time to do anything, and we just went straight through them, and kind of half of us made it through. And there was a guy next to me, and I distinctly remember seeing this horse, its ass was next to my face here, and it kicked as it was running. And I saw the foot come up and just catch my friend in his chest, and he went down. And about half the guys just went straight into the horses. The horses were fine, no horses were injured. Skaters weren't as lucky. I mean, no one is seriously injured, but yeah. And then in Lesotho, a friend of mine hit a sheep at about 90 k's an hour. Sheep was also fine, but he couldn't skate for the next 10 days on the trip. He was just covered in roasties. He wasn't wearing
nothing, just eating grass again. And
the sheep was totally fine. Didn't even notice.
Crazy, man.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I always love when someone is so passionate about this type of sports, because I also love it myself. But I can really imagine that when you're getting older, same for me. I played soccer all my life, and then you get injury, and you were like, okay, I'm not just 18 anymore, right? I'm just getting older, and my body tells me to calm down a bit, you know. So
and this
so
is why
cool.
surfing is such a great sport, because you can surf for the rest of your life. You can surf until you're 80. You know, it'll keep you young, and you're not running that risk. So skate when you're young, surf when you're older. That's
and it gives you the same adrenaline then.
Not quite. Sometimes. I mean, the thing about like surfing down a wave, it's like the purest form of meditation you can ever acquire, because you're not thinking about like taxes or like the government or, you know, like what's happening at home. When you're surfing down a wave, you're like purely focused on what you're doing, and there's like it's very meditative. It's not quite the same adrenaline as going, you know, down a mountain pass on a skateboard. But it's a very different feeling, you know.
It's more like a freedom feeling, right? So and just I also really love the sea and water and all that kind of stuff. But I can't surf myself. What is it, by the way, that all you guys, all the guys from Bitcoin and the combination Bitcoin and South Africa, you can always make a triangle. It's Bitcoin, South Africa, and surfing. It's like the perfect triangle. So what's that about in South Africa?
Because we got good weather and good waves.
And good waves, that's important.
That's basically it, you know, like why wouldn't you?
I've seen the videos of the Olympics this summer, and it is so amazing to see. Really amazing.
But that's a crazy wave they surf the Olympics. I mean, that's Chopu in Tahiti. That's like one of the most dangerous waves on earth. I was watching the women's, I think it was the women's quarterfinal, and they had to stop it because it got too big and too hectic. And they had to like wait for the next day because like this is too dangerous. And fair enough, because you know people have died at that spot before. But normally surfing is not that intense unless you're into big wave surfing, which in Cape Town there are some big wave spots. But that's not for me. I'm really scared of heights. Catching a big wave, it you know, as you're taking off the wave, it feels like you're looking down like a 4 or 5 story building.
Oh man!
Yeah, because you can't really see depth, right? It's It's difficult to see
you
depth.
can definitely tell how high it is, and if something, obviously at that moment, like the fear is quite hectic if you're not good with heights, and then that's when you really shouldn't be scared because you need to have your wits about you. And then if you come off at that point in time, the consequences are quite serious.
But then the adrenaline comes back, so maybe it's
There's nothing like being held underwater for like 2 minutes by waves pounding you and holding you on the reef.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're just like a toy, right? A toy from Mother Nature. It's just that. So that's crazy. And have you ever encountered a shark or something dangerous in that?
So I've never seen a shark while surfing, except for one session where I was surfing up near Plettenberg Bay, which is up near where Herman is in Mossel Bay, right where Bitcoin is. It's like another 2 hours up the coast. And then in that one session, I saw 3 sharks. So never seen them my entire life surfing. Then one session at the spot called Kierboom's. It's notoriously sharky though. I saw 3. And there were 2 small ones. And then the last one we saw was quite big and we got out the water very quickly.
I can imagine that.
Sharks are overblown. You know, like there's the chance of you being eaten by a shark, or especially in a country like South Africa, which is quite dangerous. Sharks are very low on your priority list of like things that are going to kill you.
Yeah. Maybe a walk outside in the dark at Cape Town is more dangerous than encounter a shark, right?
Well, objectively, by the numbers, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But now there's there's seals with rabies, which is terrifying. So that's the new thing we've got to be concerned about.
Yeah. We heard that. Yes, we heard that. Yeah. Hey, nice little background there. Always nice to. We have some kind of connection, as already mentioned, with South Africa. So it's always cool to hear a little bit of a background story. But we really want to talk about adopting Bitcoin Cape Town, obviously, and some of the projects you started, which is Bitcoin only and Orange. It has to be in the 21 minutes, Ricki. So if you're ready, we would really love to enter that part.
Cool, let's do it.
The 21 minutes is brought to you by BRINGIN, the app to reliably sell and spend Bitcoin from any wallet. Yeah, before starting with Bitcoin only and Orange, I thought, listened also to another interview you did, and you said that, education around Bitcoin adoption in South Africa often starts with overcoming the perception that Bitcoin is a scam. And we talked about this subject a little bit also with other guests from South Africa. But what strategies have you found most effective in shifting this narrative among skeptical South Africans?
Yeah, it's an ongoing battle, to be honest with you, because every day you go onto like Facebook or some social media, there's somebody shilling some kind of scam, and they're using Bitcoin as like, the vector for it. But it's every single time it's like a pyramid scheme, like a multi-level marketing scheme, and they've just like put Bitcoin on it. It's like binary trading options with Bitcoin or whatever. Like this is kind of how it goes, and a lot of people get caught out by this. It seems to typically be older people, not as tech savvy, not as like au fait with how the scams work. So that's often something to look into. But it's sort of how we get around it is just speaking about self-custody. Because if you self-custody your Bitcoin, you can't be scammed. Like that's the easiest way. If you're holding your own Bitcoin and you're not sending it to anyone, you're not going to get scammed. So that's typically how I get around it. And then that leads down the conversation of like, what is self-custody? Like, how does that differ from an exchange or from, like one of these scam platforms you have to send your Bitcoin to? And that kind of inspires the next kind of level of the discussion. So yeah, for me, it always comes back to self-custody. And that's kind of the fundamental point of Bitcoin anyway, which is really what the point you want to drive home to people anyway.
It is, because I'm also thinking, the first thing that you're doing, if you see it as money, then you're taking it to a third party. It just makes all the alarm bells go off, right? It's different. It's no different than with fiat money, where you also need to trust. So I think it's a logical way to think. So it's good that you put that narrative down with people.
The interesting thing in South Africa, is that a lot of the poorer people in South Africa really don't trust the banks. They get paid their salaries into a bank, and on payday they go and withdraw the whole thing. So you'll see on payday on like 25th, there's like massive queues of people, hundreds of people long at every ATM standing there to withdraw all of their money. And there's various reasons for that, but a lot of it is they don't trust the banks. So getting the self-custody point through to them that's like theoretically it's not that hard. But the practical side of self-custody is what's quite tricky then, because that requires a bit of knowledge and understanding. But we're winning. We're making headway. I mean, South Africa's Bitcoin adoption rate is quite high. Relative, I think it's higher than the global average for sure. So we are making headway.
Amazing.
Cool. And talking about self custody, what have been the main challenges in getting people in South Africa, especially in underserved communities, to understand that adopt secure self custody practices? What are the main challenges there?
I would say the biggest one is the cost of hardware wallets. So you can obviously self custody your Bitcoin on a phone. Using a hot wallet, and tools like Blue Wallets, Nunchuck, etc. Those are great. As far as I know, no one's Bitcoin wallet on Blue Wallet's been hacked. So it works. But really, you want to get people onto hardware wallets once they've got a decent amount of Bitcoin. And that, what is a decent amount? Like that's relative to for everyone. That number is different, right? So what I found is that, and this is why in my store I sell the Blockstream Jade, is just in terms of value for money in the African context, you can't beat it. It's a really affordable device. It does everything it needs to do. Whereas some of the other hardware wallets are just unattainably expensive, because once you've shipped them, you bought them in the US or Canada or Europe, you shipped them over here, you paid import duties on them, they're like double the price. And it's just it's a non-starter. You're looking at
what does the Jade cost for you?
So I sell the Jade for 1,800 Rand, which is, what's that? I think euro is 20 euros basically, or 22. So my math is bad. What's that?
1,000 Rand?
1,800. So 81 euros. So we sell the Jade for 81 euros. Yeah. So you can buy it in in the EU for what, 65, I think. So if you include shipping and taxes and all that, it's only like 15 euros more, 16 euros more. So it's not too bad, as opposed to like passport or cold card, or, you know, even the Trezors now are more expensive. Like, it's just, you must understand that if someone's living in a township, they get making like 4,000 or 5,000 rand a month. So if you're going to ask them to spend that amount on a Trezor,
that's
you know,
a problem.
and the cold card's more than that, the passport's more than that, it's a non-starter. They're going to laugh at you. So you have to be able to come in with an affordable device. So yeah, that and the Jade and the Seed Signer, I'm huge fans of those, simply because they've managed to bring the price down while still maintaining a really good user experience. The Seed Signer, especially for me, I find out of all of the Bitcoin wallets, has got the best UI, best UX. It's a great project, despite all the FUD that's being thrown at them. I think it's a phenomenal project.
Yeah. But that's the difference between seeing the things on the ground and really noticing the difference. And then other products can be more reliable than others. For us, it's easier to think about it than for the people there. And let's head over to another subject, Bitcoin mining, because it can have a huge potential also to stabilize South Africa's growth and incentivize off-grid energy production. Could you expand a little bit about your vision on how Bitcoin mining could alleviate South Africa's energy challenges, and perhaps what practical steps need to be taken to achieve this?
Right. So for people who don't understand what the energy situation in South Africa, we have something called load shedding, which is going to come to a city near you in Europe and the UK soon, I'm fairly sure. It's like rolling blackouts, you know, where they turn off certain neighborhoods because there's not enough electricity to go around. So they turn off certain neighborhoods so that the grid doesn't collapse. And it's like a managed brownout situation, right? And so there's people constantly turning power on and off in all different neighborhoods around the country. We haven't had load shedding since February of this year, which is great. For the first time in years, we haven't had it. And that's because, you know, they've managed to get on top of the maintenance issues and capacity is back up again. But in 2002, Eskom, which is South Africa's state-owned enterprise for electricity production, which the state is a monopoly on electricity production in South Africa. In 2002, it won the best energy utility in the world. And in 2003, load shedding started. So something went drastically wrong. And the thing that went drastically wrong was politicians interfering with technicians. Because, you know, Eskom worked exceptionally well before then. But I suppose like any centralized entity, it was kind of doomed to fail. But South Africa was able to develop its energy infrastructure off the back of extremely cheap and available coal. We have the most abundant coal resources in the world. It's exceptionally cheap. So cost per kilowatt back in the day was almost free, running all of coal. Since then, they've, you know, broadened the scope of the energy sources we use. They've introduced scam mills, windmills all over the country that don't work. We've got load shedding despite having thousands of them now. They put a bunch of solar panels in, which in the South African context does make sense because we've got a vast amount of sunshine here. But obviously battery technologies, you've got to store that energy, right? And building batteries to do that is just super expensive. So that doesn't really make sense. And then we've got a nuclear power plant, the only one in Africa, here in Capetown. You can see it out the window actually. And then
really?
Yeah. And then we've got quite a few hydro projects. But the issue is not that we've got too little power to go around. The issue is that the supply and demand curves don't match up at the times of day when they need to. So baseload power is the issue. So what really needs to happen is we need to be able to bootstrap energy production in a financially viable way, so that you can build out energy production for the next 50 years. And obviously Bitcoin mining, we all understand this, that Bitcoin mining fixes this and solves this problem. Because if you need to build out a new nuclear power plant, or if you need to build out a massive solar array in the middle of the Northern Cape, which is about 1,000 kilometers to the north of us, you need to transport that energy and then you lose 50% of it through transmission. But if you can consume it on site with Bitcoin mining, and over the next 20 to 30 years, while your cities are developing and getting bigger and there's urban centers popping up, then you can transmit that energy there, or you can figure out better battery technology. But you can offset the cost of that of that asset, and you can basically monetize it for 100% from day one, instead of monetizing it at 20%, right? And so there's some people we're speaking to. I don't want to name any names or anything because it's still pretty hush hush, but they are in negotiations with energy producers in South Africa to do exactly this at a massive scale. So we hope to see some positive news about it. But if they do manage to pull it off, Bitcoin mining is going to take off in a big way in South Africa.
And then you're talking about the near future or a couple of years or something? Okay.
The near future, yeah.
And you also told that the government has a monopoly on energy. So the government is also then on it, right? Or
these people are speaking to the government directly. They're speaking to Eskom directly. Because the thing about Eskom is it's been politically mismanaged, but there's very, very smart people who work in the organization, right? In Eskom itself. It's a bunch of technicians and engineers. And that whole capacity hasn't been hollowed out yet. The human capacity hasn't all been hollowed out yet. A lot of it has been, but there's still lots of smart people there. And so after years of, shilling Bitcoin mining to them, I think it's starting to get through. And I think the Ethiopia deal might have had quite a bit to do with it. They deployed 120 megawatts of miners in Ethiopia in a year. At that dam, that hydro dam. So,
There is need for some examples then to open up eyes of people that are in control, right?
Yep.
So interesting.
And especially with the renewable projects, I don't think wind will ever work with Bitcoin mining because your cost of your miner. Look, I'm not an expert on this, but like the cost of your miner means that you need to try to get returns on your miner all the time, or you're not going to make your capital back. No. And that miner's got to run basically 100% of the time. Not maybe not 100%, but there's a number that it needs to run percentage wise. That's probably quite high. Well, else you're never going to make your capex back before the miner's obsolete.
I mean, nowadays I'm home mining, and nowadays you just need to mine it 100% of the time. So against zero cost of energy. So. Basically, the only way, especially now with the halving that took place, the only way to mine profitable is when you don't have any energy costs. So that's easy. Yes. So only excess energy will make your project profitable. So you can argue in maybe when the price increases, or maybe a break even is also fine for you because your vision on Bitcoin is that the price will increase in the coming years. But if you're just a mining company, a business that that has to make profit, then you're just you just need free energy. So
you see, the benefit of being a state-owned enterprise that has a monopoly on energy is that you control the grid as well. So a business only has energy assets that they control, right? And they presumably don't control the entire country's energy network. So like in the UK, for example, there's a bunch of energy companies. They don't control the whole country's energy supply. But in South Africa, Eskom controls everything. So instead of having to deploy miners at every site where you're producing energy, you can actually put them down anywhere in the country and plug it into the grid. And then whenever there's surplus capacity in the grid, you can offtake and mine with that, which means you can mine 24 hours a day. And then you just need to turn some miners on and off, but you will still have a base load of miners that are running 24/7. Because the issue with otherwise you have to place your miners specifically at your different plants, which in some scenarios might make sense because transmission, you obviously lose a lot of power. But the thing with energy is it's like a use it or lose it thing, right? If you don't consume the electricity immediately, it gets vented into the ground. It gets completely wasted. And I heard a crazy stat. I mean, like 50% of all energy created is just vented into the ground because it's actually not consumed, because that supply demand, those two don't match up.
It's crazy. Yeah. So, but we can make make a whole episode about this.
This is super interesting.
So Eskom is basically sitting with a massive opportunity because they have the monopoly. The efficiency of scale that they can get is phenomenal, right?
And it also brings opportunities also for the communities in South Africa, right? And I mean, if the infrastructure is getting improved because of Bitcoin mining, it also improves the quality of life there. So,
well, I mean, prosperity is downstream of energy availability, right? You can't have a prosperous society without abundant energy. Like just those two things don't work. So the more energy you've got, the richer your society is, and the more Bitcoin miners you can have, the more you can bootstrap your energy supply. So that actually makes your country richer just by having more electricity, aside from the benefits of Bitcoin that actually comes with that too. So it's a win-win, as Trump would say.
Well, I would say get on with it, and hopefully some smart people will.
We will follow it, and then we will talk to you again. Then.
But now first, because we're running out of time, we also want to talk about Bitcoin Only, one of your projects. What inspired you to start Bitcoin? And maybe the first question I have, because you talk about people explaining people that Bitcoin isn't a scam, and all the other things are scams.
Selling the hardware.
Is Bitcoin Only also the name Bitcoin Only? Is it inspired by your urge to convince people that Bitcoin is a scam?
Right. So a friend of mine, I was chatting to him about names for a company, and he's a marketing genius. He runs a marketing company, and he was like, "Just call it Bitcoin Only." Like that tells people exactly what it does, like what it says on the tin. So now I don't have to have the conversation with people about shitcoins, because they know from the start that I just do Bitcoin only. And so what I do with Bitcoin only, I don't sell Bitcoin. I don't have to convince anyone to buy Bitcoin. People come to me once they've already ideologically made the decision they're into Bitcoin, and now they need to know how to do it. So it's like a consulting firm on the practical elements surrounding Bitcoin, because that's where I saw the gap being. People don't have the time. You know, you might be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. You don't have the time to go and figure out how this all works, because you see Bitcoin, you realize, okay, I want some Bitcoin, but now I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to buy a hardware wallet and set it up incorrectly. Or my mate got scammed. He lost his money. He lost his Bitcoin. You know, how do I do it? So that's where I come in. So I assist individuals and companies and trusts with setting up their Bitcoin self-custody, and how to ensure that they never lose it, how to set up a Bitcoin will so that their loved ones can get hold of it. And most importantly, I actually do a paper-based Bitcoin will without any tech involved, because once again in South Africa, you know, our exchange rate's like 22 to 1 to the euro. So, you know, and a 17, 18 to the dollar. So a solution like Casa, for example, you know, Unchained, is like outrageously expensive for South Africans on an annual basis to pay for that annual subscription. Even Nunchuck, like it's really expensive. So, and then most people, if the person securing their Bitcoin is the Bitcoiner, they understand sort of how the tech works, you know, but their spouse or their mother or father or kids have no idea how the tech works. And so now to expect them to understand how to recover someone's private keys if they've passed away, and then make use of a tech platform, like, no, I'm not hating on Casa, but like it makes it really hard. And what happens if Casa is not around in 20 years time? And I know Casa has got all the backups in place that even if they are not there, you can still get your keys, but try to get a tech illiterate person to do that. It's actually a really big ask. So the solution I've come up with is a paper-based solution, which allows people to just bring two pieces of paper together, and that helps you recover your Bitcoin. And this makes use of like seed words and passphrases essentially. So it's like a 2 of 2 multi-sig, but using a passphrase. So yeah, that's what I focus on. With Bitcoin only.
So sometimes you need to make things easier to change it for the people that are there. And do you have perhaps a success story or examples from clients who've used your strategy to secure their wealth that stand out to you?
Yeah. So one of the things I always do is I make all backups in triplicates. So 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is 2. So you got to have at least 2 backups, which means you need to have 3. And so I've had clients who've had a set of their private keys stolen before, and because they were secured with the passphrase and the private key, you know, none of their Bitcoin was lost. I've had, you know, clients who've lost hardware wallets and have had them recovered. So it works quite well. And for me, it always comes back to, at the end of the day, it comes back to seed plates. So not everyone does it, but everyone should do it, especially if you've got a decent amount of Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
Is you hammer your Bitcoin onto a seed plate. And I always tell my clients, you've got to go pirate on this. You've got to bury that thing somewhere in the ground, because that's just really the safest place for your seed plate. Bury it in a waterproof container in the ground. Your house can burn down. The feds can come to your house. no one's digging up your backyard looking for Bitcoin. Well, until they hear this episode. So the cat might be out the bag now, but anyway, it's a good idea.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we're running out of time. We haven't even talked about adopting Bitcoin Capetown. So we would really love to also hear from you. You're co-organizing the event. Talk us through it a bit. We obviously know adopting Bitcoin because we had a fantastic event here in Arnhem, and we also following the version in El Salvador, obviously, but also
and last year we gave a ticket away.
We gave a ticket away. That's so funny. It's a funny story because we are not a very very big podcast, so we have a couple of thousand listeners, and we gave away a ticket, and there was a Dutch guy that won the ticket, and he actually went to the conference last year. So that was really nice. Yeah. He went. So we gave him. We gave away a ticket. We got one from Herman Vivier, and we were like, it's cool to give away, but we can't guarantee that the winner is also attending, obviously, because he needs to buy a plane ticket and travel and all that kind of stuff. But the guy actually went, so I forgot who it was. But if you listen to this, then you rock, man. But tell us. I mean, you're obviously now pretty busy with organizing it. How are things going? And what are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, so a few years ago, Herman and I sat down and we were like, we need to have a Bitcoin conference in Cape Town. And then we spoke about the idea, kind of sat on it for a year. And then Herman pulled together a team, Kotsatso from Machankura, and then a few other guys. And lucky enough, we got Kamal from Adopting Bitcoin to join the team.
We have him also on the show,
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend, so to offer the like guidance and advice of someone who's done a few conferences like this was critical. We couldn't have pulled it off without the Adopting Bitcoin team. And our theme that we were going for is what is like real world use cases for Bitcoin on the African continent is really what we were after. And so our last year's theme was parallel institutions and Bitcoin. So in South Africa, there's all these parallel institutions because the government is a bit retarded in South Africa. If that word offends people, but that's the best way to describe the South African government, right? And so because of that, all these parallel institutions have popped up to fill the void left by government, right? And these guys are amazing. They from filling potholes in the roads to building schools, to building universities, private healthcare, they're doing all of it. And a lot of them are not yet Bitcoiners. So we were like, right, let's bring these two groups of people together, the parallel institutions and the Bitcoiners. Let's bring them together and see what can happen. And so last year was a great success. We got some amazing talks, amazing speakers. And so we're continuing on that theme this year. We expanded a bit. It's not quite the same, but we're expanding, going a bit broader, but really focused on practical use cases and changing lives. So it's got nothing to do with number go up. It's really all about like the practical solutions, and not even that tech heavy. It's like, how do we actually solve people's problems? And the biggest problem in South Africa is people's financial well-being. So and freedom. And it's so I say it's not like number go up, but it's like, how do you escape inflation and the poverty trap in South Africa if you haven't got access to education, you haven't got access to healthcare, and you haven't got access to parents who are educated? Like, how do you ever get ahead? And Bitcoin gives you the route to break the cycle. So you don't have to be extorted by the banks and the loan sharks and all of that. So myself
and are you also inviting some developers from South Africa or to listen and then perhaps to convince other people that things are needed to be built, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some developers, and we've got like some side events going on. So there's a lightning boot camp happening at the same time.
Cool.
My co-founder from Orange is running one of the lightning boot camps.
Awesome.
And so we've got some Kenyan developers coming down, some Nigerian developers, some South African developers. Nice. Obviously we've got Craig Raw from Sparrow, who lives here in Cape Town. And so we've got, there's a lot of really smart people building cool stuff. So yeah, it's exciting. We've changed venues this year. We're not at the International Convention Center anymore. We're actually going to be at the Waterfront, which is a better venue. But yeah, super exciting. Great time of year as well. Beautiful summer.
Yeah, and I really love that. I mean, you mentioned number go up, and no offense to the conference held in the US. I mean, but that's the content I'm seeing from there is always about price predictions and all that kind of stuff. And the cool thing is we are also friends with the Dutch a part of the Bitcoin Amsterdam, so the Bitcoin conference here in Holland. And they also said to us, we really want to have a more of a debate going on at our conference. Number of the price isn't that important. We just want to talk about really the techniques, the developments around it, but also the maybe invite politicians and all. And I think that's bringing a higher level or standard to your conference. And if I hear you talking, I'm thinking that you guys are also nailing that. And it's the same with adopting Bitcoin in Arnhem here. There was also a great panel with regulators, politicians, but just have a good debate without swearing to each other or saying that they can being happy have fun, staying poor, and that kind of stuff, So I think this is
especially in Africa. There you can really talk about solutions.
because here in Holland we try to do the same thing, but to be honest, we don't really need Bitcoin at the moment now here in Holland because our infrastructure is perfectly fine, But there in South Africa, you guys, you can really benefit already from it, So I think you guys are doing a great job in getting that approach to the conference,
And we did have a look at a bunch of other conferences and how they were doing it and what they were focusing on. And I think we drew a lot more inspiration from the likes of Bitcoin Arnhem and like Baltic Honey Badger, that style
that's
style
also
of conference
totally
really.
different.
More so than like the like garish Vegas style number go up, Lambo Moonboy conference, like that's not really what we're going for. It just wouldn't land right here. If you can empower someone who lives in a shack in a township in Capetown or anywhere in South Africa to have seed plates buried in the floor of his shack, and that is his life savings, and he saves there, like you'll be able to change that person's life much, much more than if you telling about number go up and trading shitcoins and all the rest. If you can just give him the tools, give him the understanding to like, you can save here, and this thing is going to respect your time much more than anything else. And if you for the next 10 years can save in this and keep it safe, literally, but not have to go to a bank or anything like that, you can literally bury it in your floor, a set of seed words on some plates, your children will have a better life. We can tell you that with not 100% certainty, but better certainty than any other system that is available to you financially today. That's kind of what we're going for. Then how do you use the suite of tools that are available?
But those are two completely different worlds, man. And I really love your approach. So. But we ran out of time, and we can talk for hours.
We got through 3 questions.
Connect
we can talk for hours still, and we didn't have time even to talk about Orange. But we certainly want to invite you into a future episode, Ricki. Maybe after the conference, when you're more relaxed, we can review that the conference.
I'm gonna have a 2-month-old baby after the conference. I don't know about relaxed.
Oh, really?
Okay, we won't bother you for another year, man. Hey, we have actually one question left for you, Ricki. And the fun thing is that you may choose yourself, and you can choose between Evan Allardice, he's the developer from Zeus, the Lightning wallet, my favorite, and Nikki from Amsterdam Decentralized, and he is the organizer of Bitcoin Amsterdam. So, which one will it be?
I'm going to go for Evan Allardice.
Cool.
Okay, here it comes.
Hey, y'all. This is Evan Allardice from Zeus. I have a question for y'all. What does success for Bitcoin look like to you?
We talked about it for 30 minutes already, and I don't know.
Yeah. I think success for Bitcoin, for me, it looks like nation states capitulating and big business capitulating and having to buy Bitcoin and fiat currency collapsing and having to go into a Bitcoin standard. essentially hyper Bitcoinization. That's what success looks like. And more importantly for me, the end of the military industrial complex. That's what Bitcoin represents to me.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
And hopefully we will get there. Well, it won't be anytime soon, but slowly, then gradually, right? So
we can dream.
Collect the
hey, thanks.
Thanks, Ricki.
Yeah, thanks for your time. Where can people follow you, Ricki?
So you can follow me on Twitter. Bitcoin Only ZA is my company. You can follow me there. That's probably the best place. I am on Nostrdam, but highly infrequent. I need to move across and spend more time on Nostrdam.
Yeah, you need
Twitter's
to be on Nostrdam.
Yeah, Twitter's a bit of a black hole, to be honest. Especially now with the elections. It's just a shit show.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's probably the best place to follow me.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening in. And of course, thanks to everyone helping to connect the world with us together. If you like our content, then please support us in our mission and visit our website, connecttheworld.live, where you can also donate and subscribe, like, and share our content on your favorite platform. So remember, we need you to complete our mission, connect the world. So keep those nodes running, sats flowing, and buy your ticket for the next Capetown conference, and see you all next week on the same Lightning channel.
Tot ziens.
Adios, Ricki.
Tot ziens. Lekker aanvullen.